So you're going to die one day, and I'm going to die one day too. We don't know when. It could be today. It's crazy, but it's true. The human predicament is that every single person must come up with a life philosophy to grapple with this fact. Whether consciously or subconsciously, we all operate with a life philosophy, incorporating death. For some, they just go about their business with the first religion that they were taught to as a kid. Some people never really challenge the theology that they were raised under. Others will search the ends of the earth to find a philosophy that satisfies them. And some people will be searching endlessly until they die. As I have been searching for a while now, I vividly remember my last ever semester in college, which I studied filmmaking at the University of Texas. The last film class, I wanted to make a documentary grappling death. And my working title was called Interpretations of Death, as I would interview various people, various religions, a monk, someone who had a near-death experience, trying to gather people's various interpretations of what happens when you die. I was on a quest to answer the mysteries of the universe. My professor bluntly told me, "You are not going to find the answers." He said, "Uriel, I don't know if you realize this or not, but you are not going to figure it out." I was 22 years old, so I was pretty heavy-headed and confident, like anything, and be like, "Yeah, you're tripping. I'm going to totally figure it out. Watch. I'm going to make a documentary about it, obviously." That was one little stepping stone in my spiritual journey, that film, which still needs to be published. I never really published it because life really took me for a doozy once I sincerely was searching for truth. That search, took me all the way to India as I studied with Hare Krishna monks and Vaishnavas all over the world, really. I was in New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, and then in India, I did a pilgrimage covering Rishikesh, Haridwar, Udaipur, and finishing in Govardhan, which in the Hare Krishna theology, that's like the most spiritual place in the whole world. I say this to just give you an insight into I have been seriously battling with the conundrum of death for a while now. And I've changed my philosophy, or maybe better said, my philosophy has matured quite extensively over the years. And it will continue maturing and changing because in this world, in this material world, everyone can agree that this is a world of change. Everything will be gone. This video you're watching will disappear. I will disappear. You will disappear. And the seasons are changing. It's summer until it's fall, until it's winter. Likewise, we change. When I was a young kid, I acted differently than I am now. And I'm always evolving. So are you. But that consciousness that's within both of us, that consciousness is what the yogis say remains unchanged. It grows and expands, so in that aspect it changes. But the energy of life, the prana in Sanskrit means life force, vitality, that spark of consciousness, that transcends material time, material atoms, Into what? Into how? I don't exactly know. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to say I got it all figured out, but that much I pretty much do full-heartedly believe. But there's some people who are atheists. That's fine. The point that I'm trying to make is that you have to decide, whether unconsciously or consciously. We've all decided. Yet we still ignore it on a day-to-day basis. We ignore that we're going to die. My take, personally, where I'm at today, is I want to live a life where I'm present and doing good for the benefit of all lives around me as much as possible. Because, of course, we're in samsara. We're in the material world. We're on earth. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be disease. There's going to be war. There's going to be suffering, and so on. But to the best of my ability, in a way that's authentic, that's genuinely me, that's authentically me, I want to be a positive force so that my creator, the universe as a whole, consciousness as a whole, is proud and carries my consciousness forward. Because karma is real. You do good things happen to you. Sometimes, though, karma isn't going to be what you think of it, though. Sometimes good karma will present as bad karma. You know, sometimes the worst things in life are secretly our blessings in disguise. They just take a little bit of time to mature and blossom into fruit, into something that we could recognize as, oh, that was a good thing. Because I've suffered like anything in this lifetime, and I'm only 25. I could only imagine the suffering that goes on as the body continues to age and decline. An American, I've been so blessed to always have resources and food and water, air condition, etc. But that's not a given. In fact, we're really blatantly misusing our resources in an unsustainable way to a point where even in our lifetime, my lifetime, it's not guaranteed that my life is always going to be this cushiony, that there's always going to be food on the shelves when I go to the grocery store. It's bullshit to think that's going to be going on forever. It's just normalcy biasness. We all walk around with this normalcy biasness. It's what made us think that, COVID's no big deal. The first time you heard of it, like, so what? You know, people are sick. It's not going to crush the economy. Well, it crushed the economy. You know, like a lot of people died. You know, it was serious. Was it overblown? That's a story for another day. Was it a genetically modified disease? But we have this normalcy biasness that everything's going to be okay, and it's not true, but here we are. So let's work to make it as good as possible. So when I meet my creator, if that day ever happens, if I'm so lucky enough to do that, or have that opportunity, wouldn't that be wild to really meet God? That'd be crazy. If that day happens, I want to be, you know, not feeling like I failed the test. But I also don't know if that would happen. I'm just being genuine. Who knows what happens when we die? So that's why I want to be present. Because if I'm present, you know, I'm more connected with my authenticity. And if I'm more connected with my authenticity, then I must imagine that the Creator is pleased with that, because God made you a certain way and He made me a certain way. We're made differently. So we shouldn't try to, in my opinion, conform into one homogenous thing, the same cookie cutter copy paste thing as you and me. We shouldn't, everyone shouldn't be the same. It's this diversity of experience, of culture, of knowledge, of life that is the real spice to make life enjoyable and rich. Diversity is the spice of life. And it's a shame that the rise of white nationalism in this country doesn't recognize that. So here we are, a podcast that's long overdue because I'm a perfectionist. It is what it is. Also, I've been having a crazy life lately, and it's just been the last couple months and honestly the last couple years have been so turbulent and so radical and so transformative. And my day to day has looked so differently, and my mental health has sometimes been atrocious. And it's been a difficult journey up to this point, but here we are. But I'm grateful that you're here. And the idea behind this podcast is that there's going to be a whole range of guests, but it's going to be all kind of based on my own interests at that time. And right now, I'll tell you what, I'm hella political right now, and I'm very environmentally focused. In the past couple of months, I was very dance focused. I was dancing as a vocation, as a way to give back to my community, as a way to grow as a person. And it was kind of what the theme and season of my life looked like previously. But that all changed when Trump announced that they were going to build an oil refinery in my hometown of Brownsville about a month and a half ago. Mind you, this is the first oil refinery that's going to be built in the U.S. in years and years and years. And Trump fucked up with this war. All right. And he was trying to save face by pushing this oil refinery that was kind of dying, truth be told. It's been years in the making, and it wasn't doing well from my understanding. So that Trump could save face. Hey, there's an oil refinery. We're making progress. America first. We don't need the Strait of Hormuz. We don't need that oil. We don't need oil. We're going to be building more refineries here. That's all bullshit. And it just made World War III kind of personal to me. You know, as Americans, we're so uninvolved and unconnected to the wars our government makes. We could go about our day-to-day business and not even feel the effects of war. Man, those Iranians, I guarantee you, they are feeling the effects of this bullshit war. It's unfair, the privilege Americans have, and we just let our government do this fucked up shit all around the world. And the ideology of the masses is like, what could you do? We can't do anything. What the fuck is this, bruh? That's like such complacency, 100%. If you're not trying to make a difference, if you're not voting, if you're not trying to be at least a little bit informed, if you're not doing some sort of community service if all you're doing is playing the capitalism game, trying to make more and more money for yourself, and just only thinking about you, which is not necessarily your fault. It's the system we were raised in. But the reality is, if you're doing that, you're kind of a part of the problem. I hate to break it to you, because you didn't cause this problem, neither did I. We just woke up in this country. We woke up to this life. But fuck, bro, we got to deal with it. In my opinion, we got to at least try. If we don't do nothing, then we're complicit. We got to at least try. What harm is there in trying? Well, you know what? They might kill us. I just want to say it right here, right now. I am not suicidal, all right? Just letting you know. And I'll be honest, it is scary to be so politically involved right now. But the fight between good and evil has been raging for a long time. A long time. And that's this world. It's a temporary world. So going back to the whole idea of we are going to die one day. Fuck, bro, let's try our best. Go up to God and be like, look, I tried my best. It's a terrible feeling to realize you failed because you didn't try. Who knows what we could accomplish if we tried? Who knows? It'd be incredible. They say the rich man sells the poor man the idea of heaven not being in this world so they could just be complicit and accept the bullshit conditions the rich man puts upon the poor man. Meanwhile, the rich man's having a pretty damn good time. So that's one layer of truth. Simultaneously, even that rich man, we could understand, is suffering, because you can't escape suffering in this material world. That rich man might actually not be happy. That rich man may have anxiety. Once you have money, you're constantly worried about losing money. Isn't that the irony of it all? Oftentimes, the most poor and disenfranchised souls or people are the ones with the most happiness. Not all the time, though, and this is the thing. A wise man must hold two opposing truths together at the same time. How can it be that the rich man is manipulating heaven and hell in a theological way to make the poor man complicit, while the poor man is exploited, whether consciously or unconsciously, by the rich man who is enjoying the fruits of the labor that the poor man is doing? We know that to be true, but how could that also be true to where we could understand maybe the poor man is actually better well off than the rich man in a spiritual sense, in a loving sense, in a fulfillment sense? There's multiple angles to this whole life thing, and the sad thing is social media is very compromised to only project simple black and white takes with a lot of emotion. That's what translates really well on social media. Have a very simple take, but be bold with it and maybe get a little emotional. This gray stuff, this nuanced, that is not the easiest way to go viral. I'll tell you straight up, as someone who's gotten a couple of million views on some Instagram posts, it's not the nuanced takes that will get you viral, unless you put in the work, and unless you're in the proper platform. Like podcasting is a place where those nuanced takes can live and breathe, and to be shared amongst others, to where you could grow a community of listeners who do ponder these nuanced thoughts. The problem is the algorithm, TikTok, Instagram, not so much. Another problem is the podcasting world is very much filled with a bunch of grifters. I used to love Joe Rogan. I know some of you might be thinking that's crazy to say. Here's the thing, 2016 to 2019 Joe Rogan, he was a different person back then. He would not agree or maybe even be friends with the Joe Rogan of today, in my opinion. It's a completely different podcast. Joe today is very much out of touch, to say the least. And he's perhaps compromised. Perhaps the money got to him. You know, that $200 million deal from Spotify. Who knows what other deals he's got going on. That money might have changed him. Or that money might have amplified what was there and we couldn't see. Who knows? But I still want to love Joe. I still want to open that Joe Rogan podcast and just have him be genuine again. Similarly with Trump. If Trump just said, hey guys, I'm going to be real, I fucked up with the Iran war. That wasn't the best play. I messed up. I would respect him so much more. I would respect Trump so much more if he just had the guts to be honest about the situation, instead of always trying to save face and play it as if this is the best thing to ever happen to America and I never make mistakes or we're killing it. Don't you love winning? Like, bruh, just be real. We are in a authenticity crisis in 2026. Partly because social media does not necessarily reward authenticity. Social media rewards grifters. If you understand the collective conscious, if you understand how people think and trends, you could just say the right words and have the right trending music behind you, and all of a sudden, boom, you're famous. But you're not famous for being you. You are famous for manipulating people. You're famous for playing into a narrative without actually having to take a real stance on anything. So here I am trying to be real. I'm trying to be the antithesis to all of that. Fuck selling out and fuck behind the room deals. Backroom deals are so common in politics these days, and in our leaders, and the ego is so prevalent in social media. So I'm not gonna lie, I have an ego, right? I spend a lot of time trying to pick the right fit. Let me make sure the lighting is good. Let me make sure my camera settings are good so I look good. I care about these things. I can't lie. I'm not a monk. When I was living with the monks, I tried, but I had to come to that realization that at least not right now. Right now I just want to be my authentic self. But to do that in front of a camera, that's a whole nother can of worms that I've been having trouble with, because there's so many different versions of me that are true. When I'm talking to my mom, I'm a different person than when I'm talking to my brother. And that's different than when I'm talking to my girl. And that's different than when I'm talking to my homies. And that's different when I'm talking to my tío. You know, like, these are all different versions of me. But they're all true versions of me, even though they may differ from relationship to relationship. So then I'm thinking, what is my relationship with you? What is my relationship online? I'm going to try to treat this like as if we're friends. And not just that, but homies, you know? And homies, they're just real. They tell it like it is. And sometimes they shit the stick, you know? Sometimes they're making some jokes. And sometimes they're really just talking how they feel about politics and religion and their love life, low key. I don't know yet how deep I'm going to get into all this, but it's going to be fun. Consider me like your homie, bro. Consider me your homie. And honestly, this is like a monologue. Like, I know I can't hear you talk, but that's why you got to comment. That's why you got to leave comments, because I'll read those. Man, this stream of consciousness really goes a whole bunch of different ways. I had an idea of how this was going to go about, but I just kind of keep going, and I forget. Wait, where did I? All right. So this podcast is sort of going to be like Joe Rogan, but like 2016 to 2019 Joe Rogan, not fucking modern day MAGA Joe Rogan. No. It's going to be like 2016 and 2019 Joe Rogan mixed with Tim Dillon on his best days, but Tim Dillon also got compromised too. I mean, at least he's talking real now, but he platformed JD Vance and RFK Jr. when... come on, you know? Like, if you couldn't tell that they were grifters, bruh, come on. So much is happening, though, right now. Just yesterday, I was at an ICE detention center. This specific center, which is in Dilley, Texas, it's made for children. First of all, Texas is like the only state that detains children. So all these kids who get picked up by ICE, they get sent here to the Dilley detention center. Liam, that kid from Minneapolis who had the blue bunny hat and his photo went viral, he went to Dilley. He got sent there. When that became known, there was hella protests. ICE was going hard, pepper spraying people, and there's a huge cultural moment to where my understanding is Liam got out after about 2 months or so, I think. But Liam's no longer there. The problem is there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Liams. I think something around 4,000 kids were detained over this past year. And the conditions are horrible. Some people are like, hey, you know what? Life's always been terrible. Think of the Japanese internment camps. Think of slavery. Think of the Holocaust. Think of the yada yada. Still, come on. If you ever wondered what you would be like during Nazi Germany as a regular citizen when shit was going down, look no further than how you're living today in America. Because while it hasn't gotten to Nazi level fascism and atrocity just quite yet, we are not far behind. In fact, we're following in the steps of fascism. Like, we're pretty far in there, bro. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but we're getting deep. The White House is trying to boost its counterterrorism funding for the FBI. Is not trying; they're doing it. They're raising the funds for the counterterrorism department in the FBI, specifically so that they could find people who have anti-traditional beliefs, anti-capitalism beliefs, some radical thoughts on immigration. What they're going to do with these people with these opinions, Lord only knows. ICE was killing American citizens in broad daylight. And the government was like, that's part of the process. That's okay. Federal agents have immunity. Impunity. Like, what the fuck? Is that not some Nazi shit, bro? I'm not trying to like exaggerate. I'm just trying to connect the dots here. Like, so you're telling me they could do whatever they want? Of course, JD Vance and them, they're like, I never said that. You're tripping, bro. This administration are experts at gaslighting. I mean, bro, Trump is like a gaslighting manipulator god. Like, he's so good. Like, I remember watching this interview from Chris Christie, who was a Republican running, he was like the representative or governor or something in New Jersey, something like that. He was invited by Trump to dinner with him. And Trump was just talking about how if you say a lie enough times, it becomes truth. And it's heartbreaking because so many people are still into Trump, despite Tucker Carlson leaving, despite Nick Fuentes leaving, despite Candace Owens leaving. MAGA still has a pretty strong base. Still. and there's two things frightening about this. One, what's it gonna take? Two, these people who are jumping ship, it's not like their philosophy has changed. This energy, this far right energy, is gonna blossom into something else unless as a culture, as a society, we really nourish some good roots. The problem is America has no real voice for the left. I mean, Mamdani is the only one, but thank God for Mamdani because he's really moving with motion. Mamdani has so much swag. If it wasn't for him, I'd be so hopeless. But because Mamdani exists, it really shines a light for what politics could be. And I want to be a part of that light. I want to play my part, and I'm encouraging you to play yours politically. And so, unless you're raising kids and you got a lot of time, really start to step up. Please, I beg of you. Because if we don't, we're just going to fall more and more into a hellhole as more and more of our rights get taken away and more power gets in the hands of the few. Because this country was founded upon the idea that the people hold power. But that is only theory if it's not practiced physically. So this is the time to actually practice that. And I've been getting real involved in my local government. That's a great way to take first steps. There's so much I didn't know about local government. I still got to figure out what the role of a port commissioner is. And I just learned what the lieutenant governor of a state does like yesterday when I was at the ICE detention center protest, and I met Marco Velez, who is running for lieutenant governor, and he's pretty good. I don't know for sure yet. It takes more than just one meeting to get to know. But I'll tell you what, though, I'm pretty damn confident he's better than what we got now, because our politics have been coerced and corrupted by AIPAC, by Israel, by the greedy elite, by corporations. We are so screwed. This is another Gilded Age. This is literally another Gilded Age. History repeats itself. If you haven't read up on or learned what the Gilded Age of America was in the past, in the 1900s, the 1800s, then you got to do some quick searching up, because we're in another one. And yeah, it's rough out here, and it's only set to get worse. So what's up? Welcome to the show, bro. We in it together, though. We in it together, and we gotta be light. We gotta be good. We gotta be human. We gotta have some humanity, bro. We gotta have some balls too. And we got to have a good time too, because come on, like at the same time, we are going to die. So let's live in a way that's good for others, but let's live in a way that's good for ourselves. And this current 21st century lifestyle is not good for us. We need to be outside. We need to be healthy. We need to be eating good food. We need to be growing our food. We need to be looking out for one another. We need to be agents of love and kindness in this world. That's our real purpose. It's not to make a fat 401k and retire so I could go on a cruise and take some pictures of some dolphins and drink some tequila on a beach. Like, that's nice, but that's not the point of life. And if you just spend your whole life chasing material desires, you're going to not be fulfilled. And who knows what's going to come after you die. So do it for yourself too. Make a spiritual investment so that you tried when you die. Which could be today. It could be tomorrow. It's such a scary thought that we just really don't even think about it. Let me know what you think about it. And I'll see you next time. This is Uriel signing off on... Damn, was this the first ever podcast? Hey, we did it.